Thank you.
All right.
Good morning, and thanks for joining the New York City Accelerator's Build for the Future Financing for New Construction webinar. My name is Mike Berry. I am the New Buildings Track Lead for the New York City Accelerator, and I'll be monitoring today's panel. We're very excited for today's webinar as we've assembled a great panel of presenters that will be discussing different financing options throughout the city. Today's panelists include myself and my colleague Eric Jacobs from the New York City Accelerator. We're also joined today by Patrick Whitford, Multifamily Project Manager from NYSERDA, Laziza Rakamova, Energy Efficiency Business Development Manager from Con Edison, Andrew Giulio, Vice President and Deputy Director of the New York City Originations from the Community Preservation Corporation, John D'Agostino, Managing Director from Clean Energy Transactions, Inclusive Prosperity Capital, and then wrapping us up today will be Andrew Chintz, our Financing Special from the New York City Accelerator. After the panel is presented today, we'll hopefully have time for Q&A. So we would encourage you to add any questions you have to the chat function on today's webinar. If we do not get to your questions or unfortunately don't have time for questions today, we will be following up with responses to today's questions after today's webinar. Right now, we're going to take a quick poll to see who's attending today's webinar. So if you could take 30 seconds to provide feedback now, and after you're finished, we'll share the poll results. If you could take a couple more seconds to add in your feedback. All right, I guess we can wrap up the poll now. And here are the results. So we have a great cross-section of attendees today, and thank you everyone for participating in the poll. Obviously, we're excited to present today's webinar. We know after the last webinar we had that financing is a very important topic, it sounds like, to folks doing development work in the city. So now we'll jump into today's presentation, where Eric and I will start with an overview of the New York City Accelerator and our new buildings track. So New York City is on a pathway to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. In New York City, 68% of the city's emissions come from buildings, and by 2050, 90% of our buildings will still be standing in the city. That means to reach carbon neutrality by 2050, we'll need to tackle the largest contributor of carbon emissions, which is our buildings. The city has passed a series of decarbonization policies, including the Climate Mobilization Act of 2019. The city supports programs like the New York City Accelerator, offering free technical assistance and fostering economic development as we work towards meeting New York City's ambitious climate goals. The New York City Accelerator is a city program to help building owners, property managers, developers, and other decision makers work towards energy and carbon reduction goals. The program is part of the city's long-term goals to help the market transform how our buildings operate and are built. A few ways that the program works in the market include providing the technical assistance to help buildings interpret their energy benchmarking and audit results. We deliver expert advice to help determine requirements and help meet local energy laws. Using those results, we help to identify which building upgrades to help implement, ranging from smaller projects like lighting retrofits to larger ones, such as installing new heating systems or replacing your roof. We deliver general guidance on how to sequence and prioritize your building upgrades and energy conservation measures by providing RFI and RFP templates to solicit proposals from service providers and contractors to get the work done. And lastly, and most important part of the program is connecting buildings to finance opportunities and financial incentives to fund their building upgrades. Sorry, I think I'm off a slide here. So who is eligible to participate in the New York City Accelerator? anyone who is working with privately owned new construction or major alteration buildings in the city greater than 5,000 square feet. We also have support for existing buildings, affordable housing, commercial and industrial properties, and houses of worship. All you have to do is reach out to the Accelerator team. At the end of today's webinar, we'll be providing some links and a QR code to be able to be assigned a dedicated account manager that will work with you and come up with a plan to how best to address your building's needs. Lastly, and probably the best part of this, is it doesn't cost you anything to participate in the New York City Accelerator. There's no commitment, just assistance. So now I'll be handing over the presentation to my colleague, Eric Jacobs, who will be talking about the new buildings track offer.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you all for being here with us today. Go to the first slide. Yeah, so our new buildings track offers assistance throughout all phases of new construction and alteration projects, including change of use. We're here to really educate and inform new building owners, design professionals on future-proofing projects aligned with local laws, codes, and increased energy efficiency by focusing on key building milestones. The earlier our team can get involved, whether that be the pre-development or schematic design stage, the better, as we know that both money and time are drivers to investments to build higher performing buildings and where we can help make the most impact. I just wanted to provide a brief outline on local laws to consider specific to new construction. As I'm sure we're all well aware of Local Law 97, which sets carbon thresholds on our city's largest buildings. Our role here is really to inform and assist buildings in reaching Local Law 97 compliance prior to construction through energy efficiency measures and low carbon building practices. And we'll talk about some of these pathways in achieving so later on. Local Law 154, or the All Electric Law, is a phase out of fossil fuel-based systems affecting buildings less than 7 stories this calendar year, which prohibits on-site combustion of fuels that emit 25 or more kilograms of CO2 per MMBTU. Additionally, Local Law 92 and 94 requires all new buildings, including new roofs resulting from an enlargement of existing buildings and the replacement of existing roof deck or assembly, must integrate a sustainable roofing system in the form of solar or green roof or a combination of the two. Like Mike said, our team is here to provide technical support and local law compliance. This is realized through our ability to offer high-level plan review, where our team can help identify various energy conservation measures specific to your building's needs. In terms of what you can expect when you participate with the accelerator, though each participant's journey may look a little different based on your needs, we are able to customize our services to different types of building stakeholders, whether we're speaking with owners or property managers, design professionals. In terms of sequencing, after we help identify the scope and goal of your project and the appropriate energy conservation measures to consider implementing, we then can help navigate and connect you with potential incentives, whether that be from the utility, the state, the city, which can help offset some of the cost of the energy-related work. And we'll dive deeper into those incentives with our speakers, respectively, from Con Ed and NYSERDA. But this dialogue really and support is really reinforced through our dedicated financing specialist, who we're joined with today, Andrew Chintz. The accelerator can help you understand various financing options, potentially eliminating the need for upfront funding, and identify and connect you with lenders, helping you assess those offers and provide ongoing support as needed. To help meet New York City's ambitious climate goals, choosing stretch code or passive house level design can help building owners meet those requirements, resulting in benefits such as lowered operational cost, energy consumption, and carbon emissions, while providing tenant comfort and resilience. As future energy codes and stretch codes continue to evolve and move closer to low energy standards, Project teams and building owners that embrace these standards now have the best chance of staying ahead of the curve and position themselves strongly to an easier transition to electrification while avoiding future local law 97 fines. And to quickly highlight here, the diagram listed is part of an ongoing analysis from Stephen Winter Associates. This is comparing a baseline building to those that have achieved Passive House certification. This is against local law 97 2030 emission threshold. I think what this diagram really is showing is evidence in the nature of implementing low carbon building strategies. This will help both ensure future proofing against climate and local energy laws. Additional support from our new buildings track comes in the form of focused workshop sessions. These sessions offer an opportunity for designers, building owners to delve into topics related to energy efficient building performance measures, such as thermal bridging, air sealing tactics, and net zero energy design. This is a practical and collaborative platform for attendees to enhance their skills through hands-on exercises, case studies with the hopes of translating and implementing these measures into whether it's current or future new construction projects. And in our continual effort to support professionals like you, we are currently offering a free comprehensive training package. They all yield continuing education credits spanning cold climate heat pumps, ventilation strategies, and more. So if interested, please reach out to us. And as we transition towards electrification, New York City Accelerator offers updated collateral and resources to help understand the key considerations for implementing all electric new construction. We've developed a comprehensive playbook tailored for developers, architects, engineers, and just building professionals in general, highlighting the advantages and strategies of all electric design, really emphasizing its role in reducing emissions, lowering maintenance costs, and creating a healthier and more efficient space for occupants. In addition to training, an important part of New York City Accelerator is our service provider program. The notion here really is to help build the market and not be the market. This is a vetted list of contractors where we can help connect building decision makers with the appropriate service providers to streamline and implement the actual decarbonization work. Their role is vital to a more rapid market transformation for the city. This includes support for job creation, workforce development, economic opportunities with a focus on MWBE engagement. This is important more than ever as we are navigating this first compliance year for Local Law 97. This is an opportunity for registered design professionals to help building owners prepare and file their annual report with the department. This is due by May 1st of 2025 for emissions produced this calendar year, which must be certified by a registered design professional. And just to kind of wrap things up, your new construction and major renovation projects will have a lasting effect on our city and your bottom line. Planning for energy efficiency measures will both help increase property value and help avoid fines associated with local energy laws. But most importantly, the work you're doing today is helping transform the market in which buildings are designed, built, and operated within our city. So take advantage of our resources, our personalized technical guidance, and of course, our financing assistance for long-term energy efficiency planning. Thank you. I will hand it over to Patrick Whitford from NYSERDA. We'll talk about HPD's Future Housing Initiative. Thanks.
Thanks, Eric. Just going to share here. Alrighty. Okay. So thank you very much to Eric and everyone at New York City Accelerator for allowing me to take some time to talk about the Future Housing Initiative today. So to start off, my name is Patrick Whitford. I'm a project manager with NYSERDA. I help to run the Future Housing Initiative, which is a joint initiative we have with HPD, New York City's Housing Preservation and Development organization. It's part of a suite of direct injection programs that we offer with some of the affordable housing agencies in New York State and in New York City. So today we're going to discuss a little bit about the overview of what Future Housing Initiative, is, what it does, what our current suite of projects look like, and then some of, a brief overview of what of our round two plans are. So I'll switch to the next slide. So for an overview, so the Future Housing Initiative is designed to provide owners and developers of multifamily projects being financed through HPD's new construction programs an opportunity to receive additional NYSERDA incentives to fund the construction of high-performance, all-electric multifamily buildings that will achieve Passive House certification and be all-electric. The program will have two application rounds. We're in round one right now, which will grant a total of $7.5 million. And then round two, which we're expected to be in, looking at, in the next couple months to open up applications. I'll talk a little bit more about that, which will provide around $7 million. So the Future Housing Initiative will be open to projects in HPD's new construction pipeline. So in order to qualify, in order to be able to receive funds through the Future Housing Initiative, you have to be a part of HPD's new construction pipeline and involved in one of their loan processes. You have to be projected to close within 1 to 2 years of application to the FHI program. Projects will be selected competitively through an application process and a scoring committee that we administer through NYSERDA with HPD. And up to $10,000 per dwelling unit is available to a select number of projects that can demonstrate a financing gap to achieve the program's performance goals. Projects may either be currently designed to meet this standard or in need of an enhanced design. And what we mean by that is that projects can basically either be designed already to Passive House standard or electrification standard, or they can apply with the intent to do a certain amount of redesign to meet the required standard outline in the program description. Funding will be capped at a maximum of $1.5 million per project. That is not including some innovation funding that we do provide, which I'll talk a little bit about in one of the future slides. Basically, to meet the CLCPA goals, we partnered with HPD to provide a streamlined approach for incorporating clean energy incentives and technical assistance to support the development of these highly efficient, all-electric new projects. Okay, so the program so far, we have 8 projects served, a total of 867 units across those 8 projects, $7.5 million worth of incentive funds, as I mentioned before, and they're all projects in HPD's new construction pipeline, serving low income and supportive housing. And like I mentioned before, across a number of different types of HPD loan programs that are available. So let's see. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the project requirements and kind of like the overview for how the project is intended to kind of work from the initiation to the project closing on their financing and then past that. So the NYSERDA incentive is split into 2 parts primarily. The first is for building construction costs, and the second is for a NYSERDA technical assistance provider to help with the design review process prior to closing. So basically, once a project is selected, they're informed via an initial offer letter. So after that scoring committee that I talked about earlier is finished, and we've scored the projects and decided which projects are going to be moving forward, they'll be awarded an initial incentive offer letter, which will outline the amount of money that they are eligible to receive as a part of the program. Afterwards, our technical assistance provider will work with their engineering team, their design team, and their sustainability consultants to redesign or to design the project to meet the standards that we've set forth, which is Passive House electrification. One requirement of the program is that they do have a sustainability/green consultant, someone that can help them reach the standard that we're interested in seeing for the program. So throughout the process, this kind of design review process, usually the TAP will have a number of design review meetings with the team, with the project and engineering team, in order to help them, get to the standard that we're looking for. Usually comments will be issued on the construction documents and the design itself. Those comments will be answered by the project team, and that goes back and forth a couple rounds until we feel comfortable, and the project and the TAP feels comfortable. The technical systems provider feels comfortable that the project is at the standard that we expect it to be at. And so once they feel that the standard has been met, that they communicate that to us, and we can then issue the final incentive offer letter, which basically just finalizes and encumbers the funds for that project team, at which point they can invoice at the established milestones, which are, so there's 4 established milestones for incentive invoicing. The first is at after the financing, after the closing, after the closing date on their financing. And then another 40% can be released at the completion and the submission of the rough-ins. And then at substantial completion, another 40% can be released. And then at final completion, any remaining funds will be distributed with proof of final completion. So I also include a little bit of information here about what we're looking for specific to the requirements for the design standard. They need to certify to one of the following: Passive House Classic, FIAS Plus, or FIAS Prescriptive, and then include all of the following in the project scope: electric high-performance heat pumps for space heating, cooling, and domestic hot water, electric induction cooking appliances, high-performance electric laundry equipment, energy recovery ventilation, and then a solar and/or green roof, unless granted an exception for technical feasibility. Keep in mind that these are for round 1 requirements. Some of these may change for round 2, and we'll see that when we release the program description for round 2 in the coming months. So on the right here, we have kind of how we score the projects themselves. So projects will be evaluated on the technical feasibility of the presented scope. The budget, whether it's reasonable and achievable, the cost effectiveness. Projects will be evaluated based on the scope achieved compared to the funding request, and the overall feasibility. So basically, overall likelihood of the project to succeed in the given time frame and budget requested. So I'm just going to talk quickly about our innovative technology funding. So we do have an additional opportunity in round 1. We have an additional opportunity for innovative funding. This is to be determined whether or not this will be a part of round 2. But I wanted to highlight it for round 1 because the innovative technology that we chose to fund, was pretty interesting. So projects incorporating innovative technologies that significantly reduce energy costs may be eligible for funding above the per dwelling unit / per project cap per the nice, per NYSERDA per hour determination. Projects must demonstrate cost and benefit as a part of the application process. Max additional funding would be at the discretion of a NYSERDA, and criteria for evaluating innovative technologies are as follows: the annual greenhouse gas emissions reductions and/or utility cost savings beyond proposed FHI scope, and the benefit justifies the cost over the item's life cycle. So for round 1, we decided to fund one particular innovative funding request. It was to work with the Ice Air company and their package terminal the heat pumps, basically to work with the company in order to improve an existing model of heat pump. And the additional funding was mainly going towards trying to improve the thermal properties and reduce the air leakage from within the system and around the system. And so we expect to see the results of that, once they've kind of moved forward a little bit within the project broken ground. And then we also expect to see probably some sort of advanced demonstration that the money has been used accordingly and successfully, and that they've managed to cover some of the gaps that they were intending to with the air leakage and the thermal barriers within the heat pumps. So we'll see how this works out for round two. We're still deciding whether or not this is going to be a part and how this is going to be included in the incentive. But I'll make sure to keep everyone updated in the next iteration of the solicitation. Okay, so for round two, we're looking at round two to be applications to open sometime this summer. Not positive yet as to when. We have about $7 million remaining to be used for the second round for building costs and for technical support. We encourage all projects in HPD's new construction pipeline to apply. So the main differences are probably going to be minor when it comes to eligibility requirements, innovation funding, the amount per cap per dwelling unit, and other small nuances that have to do with like eligibility requirements, things like that. So for the most part, you can expect the program to stay the same. We're looking to serve just as many units, and hopefully we'll see just as good of a turnout as we did with round one. So if you have any questions about Future Housing Initiative, if there are there any follow-ups about this program, feel free to reach out to me. I can also provide some contact information for the HPD representative that co-runs this program with me. So yeah, feel free to reach out, and I look forward to receiving any inquiries that may come up. So that is all I've got. Thank you very much. And I will turn it over to Eric. Who do I turn it over to now?
Yeah, Laziza from Con Ed will be up next.
Great, thank you.
Hi everyone, let me pull up my slides. Good morning. Thank you, New York City Accelerator, for bringing us all together. I am Senior Energy Efficiency Business Development Manager. I work with large customers, helping them with clean energy incentive paths. I would like to start by saying our future is clean energy. Our role as a utility has evolved in the industry. We are reshaping our electric grid to power buildings without wrecking the climate, and we are supporting our customers to achieve their energy goals. In alignment with our clean energy commitment, we are transitioning away from fossil fuels to become net zero by 2050. We have our clean energy commitment. I invite you to go to our website. We have 5 pillars and at least 4 initiatives per pillar. I have included this excerpt. It's 2 pillars that are important to this conversation. We are building the grid of the future that is capable of delivering 100% of clean energy by 2040 to support New York State, New York City climate goals. We are also we have very robust incentives for deep retrofits, including for new construction. I specifically highlighted the second initiative focusing on promotion of net zero building policies for new construction. And this was a general framework. Now let's get to the main topic, incentives for new construction. New construction is eligible within our Clean Heat program. The following solutions are eligible: standalone ground source heat pumps for space heating, cooling, domestic hot water, ground source heat pumps paired with other custom water solutions, ground source heat pumps paired with envelope improvements, and hot water heating solutions for domestic hot water usage. Ground source these solutions are available in our territory, New York City and Westchester, for all our electric customers. You see here on the right the rendering of One Java. It's one of the largest multifamily geothermal project in the US. It's a closed loop shallow geothermal solution. And also would like to highlight that there is no standalone air source heat pump incentives for new construction, only closed loop shallow geothermal for both for full load and for partial load. I would like to highlight here a few case studies. We have supported our geothermal incentives since April 2020. We have worked with a variety of large buildings, including One Java, Marcos Garvey Village, and 2435 Pacific Street. In fact, we just were on the site yesterday. This photo I took yesterday, the drilling in action. They have drilled 50 boreholes out of 57 boreholes. So they are wrapping up. It's great to see this happening. I will breeze through a few other case studies. This is a commercial building in Manhattan that features, that's a quite unique project, 555 Greenwich, that features energy piling, 63 energy piles embedded into the foundation of the building. This is quite a unique project and great for the tight urban environment. It is connected to the next building, 345 Hudson, forming a mini thermal energy network. And I wanted to mention that we can also support thermal energy networks as long as they are behind the meter and it's one customer. We can incentivize interconnected buildings sharing thermal energy profiles. And this project was initiated and supported by NYSERDA as well. This one is on Coney Island, very different drilling conditions, a lot of sand. The project features 152 wells, 500 feet deep, and we supported this project with 2.9 million incentive, and the total project cost for the project was 5.7 million. This is another project. I specifically included it because it features waste energy transfer, a solution that recovers wasted water instead of going to the sewer. It harnesses and converts it into usable energy. The project features shark and piranha technologies, and they are coupled with the geothermal solution. We also supported with this project 2 buildings with 4 million incentive. These are our rates. Currently, we have special bonus incentives if projects are submitted by May this year, can be submitted by May this year, and pass the post-inspection by November 2025. 150 is 125 is a base rate. 150 is the tier to enhance the envelope, geothermal coupled with envelope, and we have promotion rates, additional $25 per MMBTU if projects can be completed by 2025. In general, our current clean heat funding is until 2025, but we expect that it will be renewed and we will continue our programs after 2025 as well. This is our standard clean heat process. I encourage always to start the conversation before you submit an application package. We can help you qualify the project, then you submit the package that includes a scope of work, cost proposal, energy model, and we will perform the technical review. We will conduct a pre-inspection and will issue an incentive offer letter and notice to proceed. And after the installation, we will conduct a post-inspection and will release the payment. Some projects, some larger projects that are larger than $10,000 MMBTU, or some more innovative projects will require measurement and verification, so an enhanced post-inspection process. I would like to talk about our new thermal conductivity testing offering. That is a new incentive that we announced this year. We are supporting thermal conductivity testing for eligible non-residential ground source heat pump projects. Non-residential, it's multifamily, commercial, industrial, office buildings. We will support $40,000, so 50% of project cost, whichever is lower. Yes, each prospective ground source heat pump project is eligible for a maximum of one thermal conductivity testing incentives. I have included the link to application here, and we so far we have received a few applications in our program. To conclude, I would like to mention the New York Geo. That's a conference that will be happening for the first time in Brooklyn. We are one of the main sponsors for the conference. And if you would like to learn more about new technologies, developers who are embracing these innovative solutions, there will be tours, case studies. So I would encourage everyone to attend, and I will be happy to answer any of your questions related to our Clean Heat program for new construction. Thank you. Here is my contact information.
Thanks, Laziza. And now that we've talked about incentives available, let's pivot to financing.
And yeah, this is Andrew Chintz, and I guess I'll start us off. We can bring up the slides. Yeah, there's a different deck for the accelerator slides.
All right.
There we go. Great. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. And I'm Andrew Chintz. I'm the financing specialist with the New York City Accelerator. And you heard a lot about from Mike and Eric earlier about the accelerator and what we do and all the services we provide. And so my role at the accelerator is to support Eric and Mike and all of our account managers and to help building owners finance the work that they're planning to do. So obviously we do this for existing buildings as well as new buildings, but of course today we're focused just on the new construction portion. And I guess there's a couple, there's a different approach to find the main approach, I guess, the difference between financing these projects with existing buildings versus the new buildings is that for the existing buildings, it's usually we're adding improvements, energy conservation measures to make the building more efficient than it exists now, or to replace the fossil fuel heating, cooling, or domestic hot water. And whereas with a new building, we're starting from scratch, we have to fund these measures with the financing that's part of the initial development and the capital stack for the development. in terms of the assistance that we provide, and again, this is the same for both new buildings and existing buildings. We just understand the project scope and what the cost is for the particular work that's related to the energy efficiency or electrification, and just understand everything about the project, what the financial structure is, who the owner is, what the use is, and then we can sort of direct and identify what financing options exist, and then we would help you kind of connect with these lenders, help you navigate through the process, and just generally be there as a trusted advisor, free services, just to help you assess your options. You can go to the next slide, please. So I just wanted to put this in some context. This is kind of an overview, a very high level, of all of the different financing options that we have for this type of work. We talk about the cycle, the building cycle. When you're building a new building, you're obviously starting the cycle. When you're ready to refinance a mortgage, that's sort of the end of the cycle. And so if you're either at the beginning, where you would be obviously for a new building, we have mortgages, and we also have green mortgages, and you would finance the work that you're doing to make the buildings more energy efficient than required, or to include the electrification measures and decarbonization measures. That could be just included in the mortgage itself. We're going to hear today from one of these mortgage lenders, Community Preservation Corporation, and they're a CDFI that can provide the extra funding for the green measures. We also have mid-cycle products. So this is more focused on existing buildings that have a mortgage, and we have these different loan products that can exist alongside the mortgage. Specialty finance companies, our local green bank, or nonprofit lenders, CDFIs. Even though they are for mid-cycle, some of these are for can be used in the development of the new building, and just be attached as part of the capital stack for the new construction project. And so one of the other presentation you'll hear today is an example of one of these specialty finance lenders, Inclusive Prosperity Capital, and you'll hear about how you can use their product in a new construction building. We also have New York City PACE financing, and I want to spend a few minutes talking about that in a minute. But the other options that we have for financing this work generally are equipment loans and the what I call the non-debt financing, the energy service agreements, or as-a-service products. These really aren't relevant for new buildings, so we won't talk about them more. I just wanted to kind of put this all in context. You can go to the next slide. So PACE financing, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about this, but I know we're always running into developers and owners that don't know about it. And I'll just give a quick overview. When Local Law 97 was passed, it was coupled with Local Law 96, which authorized us, or the city, to create a PACE financing program. And the idea was that it would help pay for some of the work to comply with Local Law 97. PACE is a financing mechanism. It started in California about 15 years ago. It's now legislated in over 35 states. It stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. And basically, it's a very clever thing. It's using a very established financing tool that's used mostly for public projects. So if a community is benefiting from a public project, they will help pay for that with a charge on their tax bill, a special assessment. So it kind of PACE uses that where we're paying back the loan on the tax bill. We're creating a public improvement by reducing carbon for everyone, but the work happens to be on your private building. So it's a bit of a hybrid. The benefit of PACE is that it provides 100% financing. It's fixed rate. And the law requires that it be the term of the useful life of the improvement or the weighted average of all the useful lives of the different improvements. So if you're financing solar on the rooftop or heat pumps or even insulation or windows, those all have long useful lives, and normally typically the loan term will go out 20 or even up to 30 years based on the useful life. And the real benefit there is that this is a long-term self-amortizing loan, so your payments become much smaller, they're more affordable, and they're, the savings that occur from the work on an existing building will help offset those payments, make them even more affordable. So that's what PACE is, and I'm bringing it up because the city has decided to make PACE financing available for new construction, for new projects. There's been a long process, a rulemaking process that has ended. It's been approved. The general requirement to use PACE for a new building is that the building has to be all electric. While we're through that process with the establishment of the rule, we aren't quite ready to use PACE. There are guidelines for PACE financing that exist from NYSERDA, and they exist for existing buildings. So what we're almost ready with, and which we're waiting for, is for NYSERDA to complete the guidelines. So owners and the PACE lenders will know, how to use this for a new building. So, I mean, for instance, PACE financing for an existing building requires an energy audit, and that's to show what can be financed. You're going to improve on what exists in the building. You're going to make it more efficient. Those things all qualify. With a new building, we obviously don't have any kind of existing baseline or benchmark. So we're going to need criteria that establishes what can be financed with PACE, and how much of the project cost can be financed with PACE. There will probably be a cap on the amount. There'll probably be a list of items that can be financed with PACE, and there'll be a cap on how much PACE can contribute to the total development, to total capital stack. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of this. We've been talking to building owners with Eric and Mike about PACE in their new projects, or I should say building developers, and they're very excited about it. The lenders are also very excited about it. You may know with PACE that we do need to get, for an existing building, mortgage consent from the lender. That process is a lot easier from the beginning, where when you're starting a new building, because everybody's sort of at the table and you don't need to go and ask for consent. So, and the projects tend to be larger, so the PACE lenders are very excited about this. And the reason it's so attractive for a developer is that your cost of the project will be in a loan, a mortgage loan, a construction loan. And now we can add a PACE loan to provide more debt. And what this does is it's a lower cost than the other funding that you would need in addition to your construction loan. You usually would need to raise equity or maybe some mezzanine debt. And so the PACE loan replaces that. It's lower cost, so the overall cost of capital for the project is reduced. So it's a very attractive option for new construction. So we will certainly be in touch, and it will be announced when it is available, but I just wanted to make everyone aware of it. I think that's the last slide. And I want to just hand over to our lenders, who will talk about the products that I mentioned. So I think, is it maybe CPC's next?
Hey guys, morning. Everyone see that? Okay. Thanks for the intro, Andrew. So as you mentioned, my name is Andrew Gilio. I'm the Deputy Director of, excuse me, New York City Originations, the New York City Originations team at CPC, and we focus on originating construction and permanent debt throughout the 5 boroughs, but CPC also has field offices throughout New York State, and we're also able to originate nationally. So I'm excited for the opportunity to be with you and share a little bit about what CPC is doing to tackle the climate crisis and assist owners in decarbonizing their multifamily properties. So for anybody that's unfamiliar with CPC, we are a not-for-profit mortgage finance company with a focus on affordable housing and community revitalization, specifically in low and moderate income communities. We were created in 1974 by a consortium of banks as a direct response to chronic issues of property abandonment and disinvestment in New York City and its multifamily housing stock at the time. And so CPC aims to provide flexible capital, technical expertise, and hands-on support to meet the goals of our borrowers. And in terms of our impact, since our inception, we've invested over $14 billion throughout New York State. So we utilize our housing finance expertise and public policy platform to invest in our mission, really in 3 ways: expanding housing access and seeking new ways to lower the cost of producing affordable housing, investing in closing the racial wealth gap and increasing diversity and equity in the development industry, and last, expanding investment in the green economy to lessen the impacts of climate change. And so in 2008, CPC created its sustainability initiative to really promote energy and water conservation measures that improve the financial and physical quality of multifamily buildings. And our sustainability initiative really includes 3 items. It's education of partners and clients by providing information about local and state policies, underwriting strategies, and financing opportunities for buildings incorporating energy efficiency. We also try to create capital solutions by introducing the underwriting savings approach, which involves underwriting a portion of projected energy savings to support additional private loan proceeds in order to help finance some of these energy improvements and reduce the need for public subsidy dollars in projects. And last, and probably the most important, is ongoing data and tracking to collect performance data on buildings which have completed recommended improvements through our programs. And so in terms of our green impacts, CPC is the first not-for-profit real estate company to achieve carbon neutral operations, which we did in 2020. We have done $2 billion in green lending, which have financed over 12,000 sustainable units since 2015. And 75% of those units we financed serve low-income populations. So to highlight some of our most recent initiatives, which is called Climate United. And Climate United is a coalition that was formed by CPC, Self-Help, and Calvert Impact. And the partnership was formed to really manage a nearly $7 billion award from the EPA through the National Clean Investment Fund, which was announced last month, actually on April 4th. And for anybody unfamiliar, the National Clean Investment Fund was included in the EPA's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, which is a $27 billion investment to mobilize financing and provide capital to combat the climate crisis. So CPC formed CPC Climate Capital, which is a subsidiary of CPC, and it was really created to manage a portion of that EPA award, which is aimed at financing low carbon, clean, and resilient homes in low income and disadvantaged communities, driving transformation in the mortgage markets, and establishing industry standards so that lenders across the country can better navigate the decarbonization process. And so climate capital is really intended to, oh, I got ahead of myself. Climate capital is really intended to provide low-cost subordinate debt financing to decrease the overall cost of the mortgage capital while providing the necessary proceeds to cover deep green decarbonization improvements in existing and to-be-built multifamily assets. Climate capital loans are designed to work alongside the existing multifamily mortgage origination process. And really the only incremental process would be a third-party process to assess baseline carbon emissions, scope carbon reduction measures, monitor the work, and certify completion. And CPC's climate capital loans seek to significantly reduce or fully remediate carbon emissions, similar to how the first mortgage lenders already remediate for lead-based paint, asbestos, contaminated soil, and other pollutants. And so what you're looking at, I'll preface this by saying, the award through the EPA was announced last month, and we're currently in conversations with the EPA to kind of formalize the terms and parameters of the project. But I wanted to give folks kind of an insight into the terms of the program and how they sit today. But like I said, I will preface it by saying that these terms are subject to change based on our conversations with the EPA. In terms of timing, we are expecting to be in contract and have this program up and running by July 1st. And so, in terms of eligible improvements, they include replacing heating, hot water, and cooking systems with electric alternatives like heat pumps and induction cooking, installing efficiency measures such as LED lighting and sensors, better insulation, high efficiency windows, and Energy Star appliances, installing solar on the roofs, and installing EV charging infrastructure. So we do envision the program having both an affordable housing and a conventional term sheet, and really the differentiation will be the interest rate and the flexibility in terms of amortization schedules. So what you're looking at is the affordable housing term sheet, and really this is applicable to any subsidized or deed restricted multifamily housing. And so, as I mentioned, we do envision this program being subordinate debt, which can be coupled with with new financing, which includes our financing as well as financing from other lenders, as well as mid-cycle subordinate financing for buildings that are not at their refinancing time. In terms of efficiency criteria, we do envision two paths, one being clean air, which is carbon neutral, zero emissions, and the other being save a ton retrofit, which really the criteria is 20% reduction in carbon emissions from baseline through improvements to completion. And so in terms of loan sizing, this is also pretty flexible. We do envision minimum loan sizes starting at about $250,000. We do not have a cap, but really these funds are intended to be utilized to fund the green improvements in a work scope. So it's really dedicated to funding those decarbonization items throughout the scope. In terms of interest rate, this is envisioned to be, below market financing. So we envision about 2% interest on these loans, and discounts may be available for projects in disadvantaged communities, low-income disadvantaged communities. So as I mentioned, this is intended to be a subordinate product. So to the extent this is coming in mid-cycle or coupled with new financing, we do intend to make this subordinate debt coterminous with the senior debt. Again, amortization schedules are pretty flexible. We can amortize all the way up to 40 years, and have potential for interest only and full balloons at the end of the term. In terms of how this money, other considerations on this money, as I mentioned, loans can be used during the construction and/or permanent as construction and/or permanent sources, and coupled with existing financing. We do envision that this money would be escrowed and held by CPC, and similar to construction financing, would be requisitioned for as work is completed and inspected. And in terms of the length of the facility, we would envision that the work would be done and the proceeds would be fully drawn down within a 36-month period from closing. We do envision some of this money being available for pre-development purposes. We do recognize that some of this assessment of decarbonization measures can be quite expensive. So we will make this money available for pre-development loans, and 100% of those costs can be rolled into the supplemental loans. And so that's our greenhouse gas emissions fund. As I mentioned, we do expect it to be up and running by July, but happy to look at any projects that you think may be a good fit as we gear up to get that program off the ground. And I do know that this is really mainly focused on new construction financing, but I just wanted to quickly highlight another facility that CPC is managing is called our Climate Friendly Homes Fund, which is a $250 million facility aimed at electrifying 10,000 units of existing housing that serves economically disadvantaged communities by 2027. And this is not a loan. These are actually grant funds, zero interest, forgivable, up to $25,000 per unit for mid-cycle regulated and unregulated affordable housing. It does have a criteria that it can really be applied to projects between 5 and 50 units to both fully and partially electrify those projects. And in terms of criteria and scope items, this would be applicable for HVAC system replacements, domestic hot water replacements, electric service upgrades, and additional energy conservation measures to optimize system performance and system commissioning. And this is my contact information. I think these slides are going to be made available to everybody on this call. So please reach out if you have a project that you think would be a good fit. Appreciate the time. Thank you. I think I'm handing it off to John D'Agostino.
Great, awesome, thanks. Let me go ahead and pull open my slides here. Let me make sure this is all visible. All right, let's see if that works. Okay. So good afternoon. I'm watching the clock. I know I'm pulling up the rear here. So I thought the presentation so far has been a really great overview. I'm gonna kind of go through a couple of slides. I'll talk a little bit about Inclusive Prosperity Capital. Andrew mentioned earlier, we are one of the clean energy financiers, intermediary financiers in the market. We actually spun out of the Connecticut Green Bank about 6 years ago and brought with us a suite of tools across both the single family and commercial industrial sectors. We're a nonprofit at the corporate level. We have kind of an extensive structure where we have taxable and non-taxable business lines, and I'll go into some of that in a little bit. We have a national footprint, strong presence in the Northeast, vested interest in New York City. Have been partnering with the Accelerator for well over a year now, I think, since its inception and inculcation. So, our kind of raison d'etre was to take all the good things that we were developing in terms of deployment into underserved markets and credits in Connecticut, and really bring those tools and that narrative national. And so I haven't touched on some of our project examples here, but I can mention some of them. So I'll give you just a very brief overview of kind of IPC's standard offerings. We focus very strongly on productization and standardization across various business lines. The primary financing tool that I'll be touching on today, as you see in the upper left corner, is our Catalyst term loan. And I'll go to this on the next slide as well. Catalyst term loan, technology agnostic term loan terms out to 20 years, typically starting from 7 to 20 years, focused on mid-cycle energy improvements. So in between financing events, alternately secured is how we describe it. Doesn't require a mortgage. The goal is to kind of meet the market where it is, understanding that you're not always going to have the bandwidth to engage a mortgage lender during a mid-cycle process. So that was really designed as a PACE alternative in Connecticut, and we've brought it with us successfully into IPC. Standing behind that term loan, we're working to stand up a national Catalyst platform for nonprofit CDFI lenders throughout the country to actually utilize the Catalyst interface. So this is still in development. We're very interested in connecting with any interested CDFIs who are interested in being kind of like pilot or beta engagers, reviewers, kind of to launch this program. I don't have an ETA on its launch, but we have received some initial expressions of interest of folks who do want to bring Catalyst to their markets. So I can go into that as I will. Navigator is our pre-development loan offering. Really, this was constructed as I think Andrew mentioned in CPC's offering, as a lead-in to term lending. And so we do offer a Catalyst term loan. I believe we're doing an 80% advance rate for eligible pre-development expenses, which range anywhere from green physical needs assessments, ASHRAE level 1, 2, 3, energy audits, and design work for high performance energy buildings, whether it's net zero, LEED, et cetera. So that's kind of a high level on the lending side. Over on the left, I won't go into single family for the purpose of this call. We do stand up a Smart E lending program on the single family side of the house. Really, this platform is what we use to develop our Catalyst platform. So I won't belabor, but just to say, this has been an ongoing program in development that we're leveraging into the multifamily space. And so over on the right, and this is like complementing some of our lending offerings, but we have a solar ownership platform for smaller solar projects, underserved projects. We will do smaller system sizes down to about 50 kilowatts, or maybe even on an exception basis, smaller. Our average system size is about 200 kilowatts. We operate nationally. Again, we have a number of projects in the New York City metro area. But one of the benefits of kind of coming to IPC is there are folks who want to go solar. They're not certain whether they want to own, they want to have a third-party option. And so being able to offer both options just provides flexibility with counterparties, right? So they don't have to pursue one environment and then come out of that environment and engage with a totally different financier. We're also a lender into third-party owned solar. That's the solar debt you see referenced, as well as solar plus storage debt. So if there's a third party that is interested in owning solar assets, we have the ability to provide funds into that ownership structure, again, leveraging our expertise in the solar ownership space. And then we have a number of other shorter tenor options on the bridge loan side. We have contractor incentive bridge lending that we've set up in partnerships across the country, interconnection bridge lending for larger projects, community solar projects, upstate New York, less applicable for the purpose of our discussion today. And then on top of the solar and efficiency work on the bottom right, we also play in this, we call the infrastructure space. So anaerobic digesters, hydros, microgrids, fuel cells. So broad expertise across energy technologies. In the multifamily and nonprofit space, again, this is kind of our primary offering. As I mentioned, the Navigator pre-development loan. The goal here is it's an unsecured line of credit, functions as a credit card to fund eligible pre-development expenses focused on energy improvements at a given property, just to make sure to incent them, right, to advance funds, to incent folks to lower the barriers to entry, to having an analytical understanding of how is my property performing, what are the potential improvements, and then also funding the design of those improvements, right, to continue pushing out the cash obligation until there is a construction financing in place. Catalyst term loan, I mentioned this as well. It's really focused for underserved markets and credits and counterparties. So this is low to moderate income multifamily properties. It is co-ops, condos. It's focused on markets where mortgages may not necessarily be available. We're not averse to mortgages, but we also go in, we don't expect them. There's lots of other folks that, they require, whether it's PACE financing, a first position, or subordinate mortgage lending. We look for means to get comfortable from a security perspective using what we call just alternately secured. So we come to the market as a mid-cycle lender. We understand that we can also lend for refinancing events if there's a gap in the capital stack. So this can behave as mezzanine debt. Again, we don't bring it to market presuming as such, but we have flexibility in terms of how we apply those funds. Solar power purchase agreement, I won't belabor too long here, but again, this kind of ownership platform it allows us to also make sure that as we're looking at solar loans or loans for properties for solar, that there's best practices in place and risk mitigation in terms of lending out for longer terms in the absence of having that property level security. And then credit facilities and working capital. This just goes back to term lending for folks that are doing project development. They're on their own. They're doing third party lending, incentive programs, et cetera. So lots of different approaches to the market. So Catalyst, I mentioned earlier, longer term financing. These are terms 7 to 20 years to focus on energy improvements at a property, but also a portion that can be utilized for health and safety and broader property improvements. So, there's a lot of primary work, deferred maintenance, whether it's roof replacements or exterior facade restoration, repairs that need to be rolled into broader energy undertakings at a property. And so we recognize that, and a certain portion of the Catalyst term loan can be used for those purposes. Again, I mentioned subordinate. We don't require a mortgage, so we can be subordinate. It's very rare that I think we'd come to the table to be, the primary mortgage holder. But we can get comfortable. We can be flexible in terms of how we're interfacing with an existing mortgage holder, whether we take a subordinate mortgage or are just alternately, what I call alternately secured. But for those who are in the mortgage industry, technically, I guess they're perceive it as unsecured. The term is not to exceed the estimated useful life of the underlying improvements. So solar is a long-term asset. 20-year terms are available. Heat pumps, something like 15. But the electrification, depending on the estimated useful life, we try to sync up the term there. Consistent with Andrew mentioned earlier, we also underwrite to energy savings, insurance savings, O&M savings. We basically try to do a deep dive into operational expenses to understand what are opportunities to observe cash flow that can be unleashed that allows us to get comfortable with the future state cash flow post improvements. I won't belabor, I've already mentioned this was developed as an alternative in Connecticut to PACE. There's a recognition that you just can't get property level security on a lot of properties just due to complexity of mortgage holders and bond financing as well. So example market served. So we serve both multifamily housing and nonprofits, including government buildings, housing authorities, faith-based institutions, et cetera. and have had expressions of interest across the country from a range of folks, especially in the wake of the Inflation Reduction Act and elective pay on the solar front, right? There's lots of folks who used to look at a PPA option and now they're very interested in owning. But I think in general, it's expanded the conversation. Folks are generally interested more in solar now that the incentives are kind of locked in for longer periods of time. And so really the goal is trying to bring flexible financing to the largest kind of top of the funnel pipeline, so we can meet the market where it is. Navigator, same example markets. It's not for profits. It's multifamily housing, condos, co-ops, housing authorities, etc. Terms up to 24 months, bullet repayment. We underwrite based on ability to repay. It's not based on the successful implementation of the proposed scope of work. This can be for existing buildings. It can be for new construction. I mentioned prior the 80% advance rate. It's focused very much on energy improvements. So long as there is a broader energy project that that is the defined scope of work, we can include those expenses as pre-development, and then this can be rolled into the catalyst financing if and when you decide to take out a catalyst loan for your property as well. I won't belabor. This is actually a site within the city limits. It's in the outer boroughs, one of our solar projects in New York City. But I'll just reiterate, we focus on smaller, harder to underwrite deals that, these deals are journeys. They're not overnight affairs. It takes a long time to get folks on board to make the decision to go solar. You want to make sure that you're going solar with someone, an owner operator who's trusted, has been in the market for some time, and does their diligence on installers and kind of protects the investment. I do mention here at the bottom, one of the nice features of our PPA is we offer a buyout option at the end of year 5 after the tax compliance period and every year thereafter for the life of the PPA. So even if folks, they want to go solar, but they don't want to sign up for a 20-year, even if you sign up for a 20-year PPA, you will have the option to purchase the system over the life of that power purchase agreement. So it provides kind of the best of both worlds of someone else is owning the system, but I always have the option to, own the system if I so choose. And leave my contact information here. I will just kind of mention in terms of general project development. Again, we have a national footprint. There's lots of folks who they operate within the city limits in New York State writ large, but some of their work bleeds over into other jurisdictions. And so always interested in kind of being a flexible financing partner and traveling with folks so that, portfolios, right? Like you kind of want to do a demonstration project. And as that project gets done, proof of concept, you bring it with you into other markets. And so we have a national footprint. If there's folks that are interested in New York or elsewhere, we're always happy to have conversation on the front line. So I think I can wrap it up there.
Thanks, John. And thanks to all today's presenters. Really great information. We've got a couple minutes left. We had a couple questions that came through the chat during today's presentation, but we would like to encourage folks, if you do have questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat now. If for some reason, again, we don't get to them, we'll happily provide responses after today's presentation. We will be making today's today. We also will be providing some additional information. We did have one question that did come through, and I think this is for Laziza. So Laziza, if you're available. There's a question around thermal conductivity testing, coned incentives for ground source heat pumps available. Are these for new construction only or also for retrofits?
Yeah, I don't believe I can start my video. Okay, perfect. Yes, it's for both, for new construction and for existing buildings.
Okay, great. Yeah, and then we also had some questions around if you are someone who's working in the market here in New York City and you have a business that assists property owners and developers with anything from maybe, let's say, the person who asked the question is a company that does envelope and duct sealing. We do have a service provider program. We added a link to the service provider program offering in the chat. If not, you can reach out to our team through the QR code that we have up on the webinar right now to inquire more about the service provider program. And I think right now that is all the questions that we've received so far. I'll give it a minute or two. But if we do not receive any other questions, what we can do is we can end today's webinar a little bit early. And while I'm waiting to see if we have any other questions, I will just ask the panel quickly if there's any additional things that you would like to add based on the presentations that you heard earlier today from your fellow panelists.
I'll jump in. This is Andrew. I actually wanted to just sort of a question, clarification, and for Andrew, and I'm excited to hear about the new product you developed with the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund money, and I'm just, so I know you're developing it for both affordable housing and market rate, and it's a subordinate product to fit within a, with a mortgage. Is the mortgage, the rates you had mentioned in there, I guess it was possibly the 2%. Would that be available also for the non-affordable, or is that not determined yet?
Yeah. So again, the terms are preliminary, but I've seen rates up to 3% for conventional market.
Okay. And would it need to be with a CPC mortgage, that, or can it be done with another lender?
No, it can be done with another lender, both as part of a new financing package or an existing lender, but it will require lender consent.
Okay. I think it's great. I compliment you because we're seeing a big need for that type of product with outside of the affordable housing market in the sort of middle income naturally occurring affordable housing market. And I think it's really great that you targeted and coming out with that product.
Yep, we're excited about it.
Great, thank you, Andrew. Any other questions or feedback from today's panelists? Okay, well, we did just receive another question. Yes, again, we will be making today's presentation available after today's webinar. We would encourage you to reach out directly to today's panelists if you have specific questions. I think that's probably the best consolidated format for review by anyone who's looking to learn more about what's available for incentives and financing options for new buildings and retrofits in the city. With that, I'm just want to again thank today's panelists and all you that were able to participate today and join today's webinar. Hopefully you found it very helpful, and we encourage you to contact us directly. Again, the New York City Accelerator, we're here to help you with any questions, technical assistance training we can provide. Again, would like to thank everyone for your attendance and hope that you have a great day and look forward to working with you in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.